Hi, this is Catherine Schneider from the Fitchburg Historical Society, and we have a great pleasure this afternoon to be at Quivey's Grove right here in Fitchburg, historical Fitchburg. And Craig Kuenning, who is the owner here at Quivey's Grove, has been kind enough to consent to an interview with a focus on COVID and how that's impacted him as a business owner, and just what he's seeing in terms of that being in the community. So Craig, maybe what we could start with though is could you tell us just a little briefly about this location and its historical significance for Fitchburg?
Well, Quivey's Grove is located in two buildings. They're on the National Register of Historic Places. They were built in 1855, and I believe they're the second oldest structures in Fitchburg, built by a person by the name of John Mann as a residence and a horse stable. Went through about 5 different owners through 1980, when Joe Garton, the founder of Quivey's Grove, was looking for a residence for his family and looked at the buildings. Decided it wasn't quite what he had in mind, but they might be good to be able to be converted into a restaurant. And that's what he did in 1980. We converted the stone horse stable and this into a bar and restaurant. They have always been a part of Fitchburg and will continue to be for some time.
Great. And then, Craig, maybe you could tell us a little bit about your own history with Quivey's Grove.
Quivey's, yes.
And how long you had been.
It's an interesting story. I'll try and keep it brief, but Joe Garton was working with an architect, Arlen Kai, and my father happened to be working as a consultant with Arlen Kai, and they were having trouble with the kitchen design problems or layout, etc. And my father said to Joe, "I've got a son working in the restaurant business. Maybe he'd look at the plans." And so I did. I looked at the plans, and I came out and I met actually right here in this room with Joe Garton during the construction phase, and gave him my 2 cents worth, which he appreciated. But then I was so enamored by the project, as I was leaving, I said, I'd really like to be a part of this project. And he hired me on the spot. And so I joined the construction crew, and then I was the opening chef and became the manager shortly thereafter. And in 1986, he and his wife Deirdre Garton took me in as a partner. Oh. So, and I've been here ever since, and so 41 years now.
Oh my, thank you for that history, Craig.
Yeah.
So it's really been it sounds like a labor of love for you to be here.
Oh, absolutely. It's Quivey's Grove has just been, such an interesting business, actually, because we have the 2 restaurants here in historical buildings, became dear to the hearts of Fitchburg's people, Madisonians, etc. We do weddings. We've got these grounds. We do weddings. We do all these special events. So we slowly became part of everybody's lives. And it's kind of like people take ownership in the restaurant. And so it's been more than just a business. I've gotten to know lots of people over time, and it's just terrific because we get such positive feedback. And when it's negative feedback, when something went wrong, it's primarily they just want to help us. And make sure we get it right so we can continue. It's really, really quite nice. And so we get to do so many different things as well, as opposed to, most restaurant operations kind of do the same thing over and over and over, and we get to do all kinds of fun and different things. So.
What an asset you are to Fitchburg, both historically and what you do for people and creating this wonderful environment for them to enjoy.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, thank you. And COVID, of course, has impacted everyone universally, and we've been with it now for Oh, let's see, this is started pretty much in this area, impacting us March of 2020, and now we're in the holidays, heading into the holidays, December of 2021.
Yeah.
Could you maybe, Craig, take us through how that's been for you during this over a year and a half now, almost 2 years, heading almost into 2 years, what it's been like for you to be here and how your business has been affected by COVID?
Well, first of all, COVID was nothing you could have ever planned for, and that goes for everybody. It just took us by surprise. I happened to be on vacation in Utah skiing at the time when I got an email on, I believe it was March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, that the edict came out that closed down every restaurant in the county from the county health department. We had to close down as of 4 o'clock. St. Patrick's Day, everything was prepared, ready to go, looking for a full house, etc. Closed down, I get this email and I'm going, wow, what's going on back home? 2 days later, we finish up skiing in Utah, and all the resorts closed down. And so we make our way back, and I get back here. I have been a little bit out of the loop and get together with my team, and we are closed, and we don't know what's going on. We don't know what's happening. We're just closed and waiting for, you know, some guidance of what we can do, etc. So we ended up being closed completely for almost 3 weeks. And then we were able to get things together and institute a plan, and we turned 100% to takeout. And of course, that was sort of new to us. It's a whole different type of operation. We had always done some takeouts, but it's like, oh, on a Friday night we'd do 15, 20 fish orders takeout. Normal days we'd have 2 or 3 takeout orders. All of a sudden we have to transform the whole thing. We have to get all the new takeout cartons, all the different to-go type of stuff. Of course, everybody in the country is trying to convert to this. So everything that you're seeing that you want to get is out of stock. So it was interesting. It was just trying to find what we could, and it changed constantly. But we converted to takeout, and thank goodness for our loyal customers. It was so surprising. On Friday night, we normally, on a normal Friday night at that time of year, we would be doing close to 500 people. Suddenly, we're doing 500 plus takeout orders. The response from our customers was just overwhelming. And so this was a plan that we refined and just trying to get a grasp on it, and we did pretty well. It was amazing how we were able to convert and act and do this smoothly, and it just became a production line, and it was really pretty encouraging. And so that's what kept us going. So we were doing this takeout, and then about the end of May, we were able to start doing or sit-down dining. Customers, whether it was outside or inside, under new rules that we had to operate at 25% capacity, with tables distance 6 feet, etc. And it's like, well, okay. 25% capacity is hardly enough to really make things happen, but it was a start. We were also very lucky to have our outdoor space. And so whereas most restaurants were struggling to find a way or a space to be able to do things outside, we already had a space in place that we could just turn to, and so we were able to set up outside and still do a terrific amount of dining, serving the local customers, and they responded. It was really encouraging. We lost all of our weddings that summer. We had a pretty solid bookings of weddings, lost them all. Every other special event we lost, but we hung in there with what we could do. It was a struggle because it was all new and learned and a step forward and step back. We'd try this. Okay, that doesn't work. Come back, reorganize, try again. Finding what items we could do and do successfully, traveled well, that people wanted, etc. It was a trying time, but fortunately, our customers stayed with us, and our employees stayed with us. It was from the get-go. Our intention was to maintain our employees and take care of our employees. We had run our business all these years with the idea that we were doing this for the long haul instead of short-term profits, et cetera. So financially, we were pretty strong going into this. And so we made a commitment to our employees that we would retain them as best we could. We were paying employees, and often they weren't working, but we were able to keep them. And consequently, we have most of our core staff still with us today. That was one of the good things that has come out of it. So that worked pretty well for a long time until the outdoors shut down.
You came in at the winter of 2021.
We came back to the winter season, yeah, and so things then got really pretty scarce again, and we were still under this restriction of 25% capacity, et cetera. But we were now trying to mix dining and to-go orders, and that put a whole nother strain on our kitchen and our staff, that we're doing two things that are kind of different. And but I got to hand it to the staff. They hung in there. They executed. They did it, and we came out of that worst period pretty good, more mentally pretty good at least. So. As we followed this through, is last year in the spring, when things kind of opened back up and we could return to our full capacity. It was a slow go with people coming back in. It just kind of, some people started coming, and we had a very slow build back up. But with the vaccinations, as people got vaccinated and they started venturing out from their little small worlds and opening up, it got, it opened up and got better. We were able to reopen the outside again last summer. Our weddings came back, dining came back, not 100%, but it returned, and it was very encouraging. And just as things were getting close, say 80% of kind of normal for us, then along came this Delta variant, which kind of just put the kibosh on a lot of things again. And so we kind of ended up backing up a bit and whatnot. So.
Well, Craig, quite a journey, and all the changes, adaptability, flexibility, and being able to retain your employees, and how you look at your employees and the importance of them and how you've treated them, and et cetera, your customers. And speaking of customers, those who enjoy so much being here, Have you seen changes in their behaviors and attitude through this, through this COVID period, would you say?
The the um, the customers' attitudes were very encouraging right from the get-go. There was a overwhelming feeling that we got from the customers that we're there to support you. We're going to order takeout for you so we can support you. You know, you've been a part of our life. We want to help you make it through this. So there were people that were, just, we're ordering from you twice, 3 times a week. And it's kind of like, oh, thank you. And not only that, they were extremely generous with our staff in terms of tips and gratuities, because as we went into this takeout type of mode, and at first it was curbside, so we were taking everything to their cars, et cetera. But from a customer standpoint, what were they getting in service that they would tip on? Just somebody they were doing their own ordering, they were taking it home, et cetera. But their tips were exceptional, and they kept our staff, being able to afford food and their rent and everything else. So the tips didn't drop off. They actually increased, and that was really, really encouraging and amazing from our customers. We certainly appreciated that. Customers were extremely understanding as we made mistakes. They'd call and say, geez, I ordered this and I didn't get it, and we go, oh my goodness. No, it's fine, we just wanted to let you know so that you can correct the problem. And that was nice. They were very understanding, very helpful, and we appreciated that. As things started opening up and they started returning inside, it was so nice to see faces again. And they were like, oh, Jenny at the bar, Jenny, it's so great. We haven't seen you in months. And that was just, that's warming. That's really, really pretty great. So, so we were very happy with that. We're glad. I mean, it's nice to see people back out and having a good time and smiling, and that's all good.
Wonderful to hear. That's so heartwarming to hear the story. The relationships are so important, aren't they?
Yeah.
And your business of the restaurant and the stable and the bar bring people together for those relationships.
Yeah. In a restaurant, I mean, doing takeout, in spite of how successful we were doing that, the response to that, et cetera, it's not the same thing. We're really in the business of hospitality, and that whole aspect of it, the energy in a dining room as people are, having fun and chatting with their friends, et cetera, that's a whole different thing. And so to see that return has been really, we're really happy to see that, and happy for people to be able to get back out a bit and whatnot. Although people are still being cautious. And
Well, and I know you have the requirement of having people make sure people are vaccinated before they come into the restaurant or the stable. And how has response been to that by customers?
Well, we were, as we saw various things happening, and that as people got vaccinated, et cetera, and started returning, and things were going in a very positive direction, and then we started taking a turn for the worse, and it just became very clear to us that vaccination is the best tool in preventing the spread and the severity of this unfortunate disease. You can read all you want any way you want, but to us, it's the best tool. And we saw as other places in the country, other businesses, et cetera, were coping with this and figuring this out, we just decided, we looked at it and went, our business has suffered enough. Restaurants in general took a very hard punch to the gut, and at some points we're like, they're the problem. Stay away from restaurants. I didn't want to go back to that. I wanted people to feel positive about dining, going out, etc. And so we just decided this was the direction to go. We were unable to secure enough staff to be able to actually enforce and check, etc., like they're doing in some cities, etc. But we thought that if we just requested it, we would get enough compliance to make a difference. The reaction is about what we expected, that the majority of our customers have been very thankful and responded very positively, and then there would be some people that this didn't sit well with. We heard from a few of them. I respect their opinions. Wasn't trying to make any enemies, etc. But we felt like those who disagreed with us would probably just stay away, and that's okay. Hopefully when this whole mess straightens out, they'll return and no harm done. But it's really been well received. People have been going out of their way to mention, oh, thank you so much for doing this. We feel much better about this. It's really been a good response. So I'm happy with it. Our servers are happy with it. Our customers are happy with it. And I think our business has responded really well. We've been very busy since we instituted this.
And I guess asking you too as a follow-up to this, Craig, is where do you go for guidance when you're making any decisions about your business during this COVID time? Do you have any any places that offer you models, or this is the way we've done it, or this is a good idea? Have there been sources?
There was certainly, especially early on, there was so much information coming out everywhere, all over the place. I mean, it was just like overwhelming, and you couldn't keep up with it. The response from the Wisconsin Restaurant Association was terrific. They were able to get and sort through a lot of the stuff coming out from different public health agencies, the National Disease Control, all this stuff, and get it into a place where we could kind of go to and look at. I was very, very happy with them, and they were supported by the National Restaurant Association as well. So that was a good source for us as far as what was really going on, what our best practices were, etc. As far as making the decisions as to what we were going to do, we looked around and saw people were just doing all kinds of things. But for the most part, we just relied on our gut feelings, what we felt from our experience, our customers would respond to. We brainstormed like crazy, lots of different things. There was an early on response. There was a concept that had already kind of begun a number of years ago called ghost kitchens, where you just do takeout or pickup, etc., not necessarily under your brand, but just invent a new brand. We explored lots of possibilities there, but in the end we decided, people will respond to our name, Quivey's Grove, the types of things we do, and so we stayed with that. We tried delivery service, weren't happy with that. So we just stayed with what we knew and what we knew how to do as best we could, and that made a lot of sense to us. So there was plenty of advice out there, but
Well, knowing your customers and knowing
Yeah.
what you do well and staying with that
Yep.
sounds like it was very successful for you, Craig.
yeah.
Well, one last question. What has COVID been like for you personally during this time? How has it been for you?
Well, it's been difficult. On a personal level, it's been very difficult. Right away in the beginning of COVID, we lost one of our employees to COVID. A part-time bartender. He had been my assistant manager back in the '90s. Gone on to, everything else and a family and everything else, but his kids were going to go to Europe for a band thing, and he picked up Friday nights bartending to be able to add a little extra money to that. And he started bartending for us on Friday nights, probably 4 weeks prior to COVID coming in, maybe a little longer than that. But it was nice to have him back. And then right away, beginning of April, he got sick, was hospitalized, and he passed away. So for us, COVID was very real and very serious right from the get-go. And we took it that way and took all the precautions we could, and were exercising extreme care, etc. In September of that first year, I actually got COVID, and I got pretty sick. I didn't require hospitalization, but it was one of the scariest things I've ever been through. I had to quarantine at home with my wife, and I was scared to death that she was going to get it, and it was tough. Going to bed every night with your temperature starting to spike and wondering if this is the night, that this turns deadly for you. So that was really pretty tough. I still have lingering effects from that, and ended up with it exasperating some cardiac problems for myself. So it's been, just for my health, it's been very tough. Prior to COVID, my partner and I, Deirdre Garten and I, were looking to kind of retire and find a buyer for Quivey's Grove and get on with retirement. And this absolutely shut that down. We ended up having to take the business off the market and kind of forget that idea altogether. So we're off the market. We're waiting for things to change, etc. I obviously was unable to retire. So, we're just kind of hanging in there. So, it's just, life has some funny turns. On the other hand, I also said, okay, I'm 72 years old, and kind of coming through this, it was kind of like being closed down and not being able to retire. I said to my wife, I said, well, what else was I going to do during these last 18 months? I could have just been sitting around doing nothing.
And you were meeting all of these challenges.
Yeah, so, just having this challenge, having this has kept me busy and kept me, thinking and whatnot. So that's all right. I think there is going to be a huge challenge going forward for restaurants. We are now not only challenged with this very financially difficult period from the past year and a half or so, but now we are challenged by a shortage of labor, rising costs, etc. And so there's a huge challenge for restaurants at this point to decide, what are we going to be going forward? How are we going to make this work going forward? How are we going to be able to retain this core value of hospitality and still survive? It's going to be challenging.
Craig, you have been so forthright and honest about how things have been during this period of time, and yet you have maintained the integrity of your business and have done what you needed to do, adapting and changing and making it work. So I just want to say, on behalf of the Fitchburg community and the surrounding area, all the people who so much enjoy being here, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Well, thank you for coming out and doing this interview and recording this for posterity.
Our pleasure. And
thank you.
We will be having this on our website, just to let people know. It'll be on
Okay.
fitchburghistory.org. And so we just so much appreciate your time this afternoon, Craig, and wish you the best of luck in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you for providing
All
Quivey's
right.
Grove for all of us.